In keeping score, we're going to add heads-up display elements that keep track of the score and the health of the player. We need to add some new object types, create a couple global variables, and we've got a lot of events to create that position our HUD objects and then update the score and the health as the game progresses. The first thing we're going to do is add a scoreboard. So go to Object Types, and you're going to choose the Text object type, and the name when inserted should be Scoreboard with a capital S. The crosshair should appear. Make sure that's going on the HUD layer. Next, find the scoreboard under Object Types and select Behaviors. We need to add a couple. We're going to add the Pin behavior under General. We're going to add a Fade behavior because we want to fade in the scoreboard. Rename that fade to Score Fade In. Upper camel case. Score Fade In. Capital S, capital F, capital I. Close that. And now let's set our fade properties. We want our scoreboard to be active at start. Fade in time should be 1 second. Wait time half a second. Fade out time 0. And destroy no. Now let's set some properties for the scoreboard. Change the width of the scoreboard to 320 pixels, 160 height, and scroll down and we're going to set some of the text properties. For text, we're going to change the initial text to loading with an ellipse on the end, all caps. For font, we're going to change that to Arial and 34 point. And now we want to color our text so it looks nice. Go to Other, Custom. For the red channel, 204. For the green, 0. For the blue, 0. And let's align it horizontally to the right. Excellent. Now we need to move on to adding our custom font, which is called Kenny Future. Let's scroll down to where it says Files, and we're going to import all the different files we're going to need for the custom font. Go to the Assets directory, and you will see that there are 6 different files that you're going to need to select. They all say Kenny Future of some sort. Select all 6 files that you see me selecting that are listed in the project guide and press Open. Next thing we're going to do is we need to create a family for any object that's going to get our custom font. So we're going to go up to Families and we're going to add a family. Right click, Add Family. Right now, the only object type we have that will have the custom font is the scoreboard, so add that. Now rename your family so we know what it does, what it contains, to Kenny Future, upper camel case, uppercase K, uppercase F. Awesome, you should have just the scoreboard in it. Go to the game event sheet, and under the On Start of Layout event, let's add an action. Choose Kenny Future, and then Set Web Font under Appearance. For family name, enclosed in double quotes, Kenny_Future Regular. For CSS URL, in double quotes, Kenny_Future.css. This will set the font family for any object type assigned to Kenny Future. All right, drag that up so it's the first action. Now let's add a variable for our score. We're going to name it Score with a capital S. It will be a number with an initial value of 0. And for a description, it is the current score of the game. This is the variable we're going to use to track our score. Now we need to add another action, which sets the scoreboard text at the start of any level. So add action, choose the scoreboard, and then set text. We're going to set the text at the beginning of the layout to the score. Whatever the value of the score variable is, that will show up in our scoreboard. It's great having the score variable, but now we need to update it at opportune times throughout the game. Go to the Health Event group, and we're going to add an action which sets the score when the spaceship collides with the meteor, when the spaceship gets blown up. Click Add Action and go to System, Set Value. You're going to set the value of the score global variable to 0 whenever the spaceship collides with an enemy. Drag that up to where it's the second to last action right before the layout restarts, and we're good. We also need to be able to increment our score. So add an action to the Meteor on Collision with Laser event in the Enemies event group. Choose System and then Add To, because we will be adding to the score global variable. Choose Score for your variable and then 100. Every time a laser collides with a meteor, we add 100. Of course, we can't just update the score. We also have to update the scoreboard. Add action, scoreboard, set text. And as usual, we're going to set the text to the value of the score global variable. Remember, you need to update the scoreboard whenever you change the variable. The next thing we need to do is position and pin the scoreboard as appropriate. This is what we use the guide object for. So go up to the onStartOfLayout event in the startup event group, add an action. Choose scoreboard, and we're going to set the position to another object. We're going to position it, and then we're going to pin it. Find where it says set position to another object, use the guide, and we created an image point earlier called scoreboard. Make sure it's in double quotes, capital S, and then press done. Once it's positioned, we can pin it. Add an action. Scoreboard. Using its pin behavior, choose the pin to object action. We are going to pin it to the guide using the position only. Awesome. Before we move on, we want to make sure that our scoreboard is being positioned and pinned properly. So we're going to run our game in debug mode. You can see that the scoreboard's in the upper right hand corner, and if you scroll down, you'll see that it is pinned to unique ID 26. Let's make sure that that is our guide, unique ID 26. So as you can see, as the spaceship moves, the scoreboard stays in position because it's been pinned. The next thing we're going to do is create our health tiled background. The health tiled background is going to keep track of the lives or number of spaceships you have until the game is over. All right, let's create a new object type. It's going to be a tiled background. We're going to be using a tiled background in a different way than we have before. And we're going to call it health with a capital H. Make sure you find the spaceship 32 by 32 raster. What we're going to do is we're going to tile this, and it's going to represent how many lives remaining. Go over to the properties and make sure that we size it to 32 by 32. 32 by 32 will show just one spaceship. And we need to add a behavior to this health tiled background. We need to add pin because we are also going to pin that to the guide. Excellent. Now we need to go to our code and create a global variable to track our health, the number of lives the player has remaining. Create a global variable, and you're going to call it health. You're going to do this in the game event sheet, capital H. It's going to be a number, and we're going to give 5 initial spaceships. For description, you can put in amount of health remaining. We're going to use this global variable to size our health tiled background. Now we need to add actions that are going to subtract from our health global variable whenever the spaceship gets hit by an enemy, and we need to reset the width of the health meter. So go to the health event group and add an action to the enemies on collision with spaceship event. Make sure it's a subtract from health value 1. Subtracting 1 from the health isn't enough though. We need to add an action, health, and we need to find the set width action under size and position for our health tiled background. We're going to use a special clamp function to recalculate the new width of our health tiled background, and we're going to keep it within its limits. We should never show less than 0 spaceships and never more than 5. So this function right here will calculate the new width of our health tiled background. So we decrement the global variable, we reset the width. Now we're going to drag up those 2 actions so that they are the third to last and second to last respectively. Next, we're going to remove some actions that we're not going to need because we have some changes we're going to make that negate them. Get rid of the system restart layout action, and also get rid of the set score to 0. Excellent. We're going to use this global health variable we added to determine whether the game is over as well. So we're going to add a sub-event to this enemies on collision with spaceship event. Right-click, add sub-event, and we're going to compare, using system, compare variable, whether health is less than 1. If health is less than 1, then the game is over and we need to restart the game. But let's add some actions before we do that. System, set value of score back to 0. When we run out of lives, we're going to reset the score to 0, and then let's add another action. System, set value of health to 5. So we're resetting the lives, resetting the score, and then last, let's add an action, system, that restarts the layout. System, and find Restart Layout. So we will be checking to see whether we are out of health. If we are out of health, we will reset the score, health, and we will restart the layout. Now let's right-click and add an else. What happens if we have lives remaining? If health is not less than 1? Well, we're going to add an action that simply restarts the layout. Awesome. Last but not least, we have some actions we need to add to the start of the layout. Scroll up to the Startup Event group and find the On Start of Layout event. We're going to add an action which sets the width of our health tiled background at the beginning of the layout. So find Set Width under Size and Position for health, and we're going to use the same clamp function we did before to calculate the correct width of the tiled background and to make sure that it never shows more than 5 spaceships, never less than 0. Now it's time to position and pin the health tiled background. Click Add Action, choose Health, and we're going to set position to another object. Specifically, we're going to set it to the guide. We're going to use the health image point we created a while back. Once we have that positioned, now we need to pin it. Add Action, Health, and you're going to pin to object. We're going to be pinning it to the guide with position only. So throughout the game, it will be pinned in the left-hand corner. Go ahead and lock the HUD layer, and we're going to go ahead and debug the layout. Let's make sure everything's working. Notice how our health meter is in the upper left-hand corner, scoreboard in the upper right. I'm going to start firing some lasers. Make sure that the score increments by 100 every time a laser collides with a meteor. That looks like that works. What about if I get hit? It should decrement the health, and I should only see 4 spaceships. Later on my last spaceship, it should restart just like you see here with 5 spaceships, and the score should be 0. As always, save and test thoroughly.